Hello everyone! Today's video is brought to you by my Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega because the highest tier I offer also includes review requests, or in this case, just plain old video requests. If I make it, you can ask for a video of it, whatever you want, and I'll periodically ask them for more. I recently did that, and one of the requests I got was to do a tier listing for all of the '07 movie toys, which is not a toy line I really touch on very often, so it's not a bad choice. So, to you who have requested, I hope this satisfies. Now, as a general rule, there are a few things we're going to go over just for the sake of brevity and clarity here. We are only going to be dealing with brand new toys to the line, nothing that was repainted from Cybertron and slapped with a movie logo. We're also only going to be dealing with the main line of toys, so your deluxes, Voyagers, leaders, and we're throwing the real gears in there too because I think they fit that Scout basic class kind of price point for this toy line. I think they're fair to include. But things like Fast Action Battlers and Legends class, not as fair to compare, so we're going to let them sit on the side and be their own thing. The important thing about lists like this is that it is entirely subjective, especially when it comes to the '07 Transformers movie, because a lot of you out there might view this as your G1. These are the Transformers you grew up with. This might be the first Transformer toy line you ever had things from. So you are going to have a different opinion about it than I am going to have, but I'll try to be as objective as possible. But please understand, my preferences are probably going to be very different. Beyond that, I think it's the standard rules apply. We are using my traditional tier list, Holy Grail, premium price, retail release, bargain bin, and flea market level to determine what value these toys all have. So, we will get started. You'll forgive me once we get into the real gears if I start forgetting names, because they were non-characters. I will endeavor to remember them all. But it's a pretty randomized little list here for the most part. So we're going to start, of all things, with Leader Class Brawl, who actually I really remember liking that toy. Like, I liked the features to it. I liked how big and heavy it was. I felt like it worked the bulk a little bit better than the deluxe class did. Obviously it did. It had more room to work with in the budget. I can't remember being like wowed by it or like, oh my god, it's my favorite toy in the whole line. But I definitely liked it. I definitely liked that one a lot, to the point where I think I remember like that was the one where I'm like, should I really sell this off? It's actually like a really cool tank transformer. Yeah. So I don't know. Like for now, and these can all change. These can all change and shuffle around as we kind of go throughout the list. For now, I'm going to put it at the premium price level. Might actually go up to Holy Grail depending on how else everything is. So keep in mind, like this is all subjective. This is all like within its own self. Like I'm trying to make, like, if it's like Holy Grail tier, I'm talking like the best the '07 toy line had, not necessarily like the best toy of all time kind of thing, right? All right, so more clarification. Jazz. The Jazz toy was problematic. So it wasn't the most complicated figure. It had some interesting proportions. I can remember him for super wide chest, super heavy legs, terrible arms. That deluxe Jazz figure might have the worst arms I've ever encountered on a Transformer. If you've never had the chance to play with a toy, it's the hood of the figure split in half and then folded in half again with little nubby hands flipped out. And those are your entirety of your forearms. That's how they made the forearms for the toy. It's terrible. It's terrible. The figure itself is okay, but it really does get dragged down by how flimsy and cheap and thin those arms are. So, he's not unbearable, but I am going to put him low. All right, I think that's fair. All right, Bone Crusher. Hoo-hoo. I think out of everything movie-wise, I really think Bone Crusher excelled. Like, I would love to see more stuff with movie-level Bone Crusher. I really liked his new Studio Series Voyager toy, and I really, really liked his deluxe too. It's that nice level of complexity to the transformation. It's the uniqueness to it, like the super extendo arm gimmick along with the fork gimmick. Like, he's got like a lot of like menacing, like reach and grab stuff that I think is super cool. And I just love how big and heavy set he is for a deluxe. He's the kind of unique I really, really like. I like his jungle redeco too. So like every version of Bone Crusher is kind of a win for me. I'm putting him up Holy Grail. I think he's one of the better toys that Toyline did. All right, Blackout. So this one is a little bit dicier. A lot of people back then complained that Blackout was so small that he's a Voyager when he should be a leader class, because like that kind of helicopter is gigantic. If you've ever seen one in person, I don't necessarily agree that he needed to be Voyager or a leader class, because well, I guess he's the first live-action Transformer you see in motion, so I guess he has some history to him. He got his due. He eventually got a leader class figure. But I think the toy itself is kind of mid. A lot of its bulk goes into like a gigantic spin blade weapon. It's not the most engaging figure in the line. Not for me, anyway. I think it just kind of did everything just right, but nothing that really like shocked me or surprised me. So I'd put him like right in the middle. Like, that's kind of where he goes for now. All right, first Real Gear figure, and my brain wants to say Booster X10? Trying to double check that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go with Booster X10. But most people just think this is Laserbeak, because that's intentionally what it's homaged as. I think it's super clever to come up with a MP3 and headset piece that actually combines into a Laserbeak. It's a really clever little toy, like little, you know, and it looks good as like a larger scale Laserbeak, at least as large scale as we'd ever gotten at the time. Thought it was really cool. I thought it worked really, really well. But I'm premium. I think for his size and his price, I think he was really, really nice. Okay, we got a whole bunch of Real Gears in a row here. So, what's your name? High Score. Yes, I'm looking it up. High Score 100. The game controller again with the gorilla proportions. This is another one. This is another really good one. He was fun. Like the thumbsticks kind of worked. The buttons kind of worked. Like he felt like he's a super small controller, but he felt good. Do you remember when Xbox made those they tried controllers for the first time, and they were like they felt like you were hanging on to like a brick, and like they were huge. And then they like overcompensated with like a tiny controller. That's what he felt like. He felt like the overcompensation for a huge controller from Xbox. But no, like he's a cute little figure. He makes for a nice little control stick. I make the Xbox comparison now. As I'm now remembering, he has a green repaint. I do think I like Booster better. But I'm still inclined to put him in premium, because he's still like fun. He's got a nice characterful sculpt to him. Yeah. He's a really, really nice Real Gear figure. Oh, the phone. Oh, what was the phone's name? Speed Dial. All right. This one is not as impressive. It's really just arms and legs come out of sides. It's nothing like terribly shocking as far as transformation goes. No, it's just like a plain old flip phone figure. And the disappointing thing is that half of the bulk of the flip phone is completely unused because it just folds onto his back. And I really felt like that was room they could have done some cool things. Make a wing pack, make it unfold into like some power-up for him, or just incorporate it into his robot mode. There's a whole line of transforming cell phones in Japan for a live-action show they did, the name of which I can never remember, and someone in the comments is going to mention it. But it felt like they could have done a lot more with it. So I kind of want to bargain bin it. It just, like, as far as compared to the rest of them, it just really wasn't all that thrilling to me. On the other hand, we have Spy Shot. Spy Shot is, again, like, he uses all of the bulk for the transformation. He's not the most engaging looking robot, but I do really like how the toy works, and it's kind of asymmetrical transformation. I do not know why this toy never got repainted in reflector colors, because I'm pretty sure collectors would have bought them out by the dozens if they did. But it is what it is. I'm gonna put him up retail. Also for Cybertron fans, a little picture of Ransack on him. The next one also has one. Its viewfinder has a picture of Override. What is your name again? Zoom out. This one I'm not as happy with. Like, the transformation is okay, but it has some weird proportions because its arms are on this like weird joint system. And it doesn't quite hit the levels that the other like really nice real gears do. Again, I kind of want to put him mid, but he's definitely lower than Spy Shot. I put him there. All right, back into proper deluxes now. All right, so we have Payload. Great name for a armored money truck, by the way. Payload is divisive. So there's a lot of people that really hate this figure because he's got that big plunger gimmick that sticks a mile out his back. That is frustrating. That's not the best thing. But honestly, there's a lot to the figure I actually like. To go from this big brick of a truck to this like really angular robot mode, I think is a really clever use of like inside out transformation elements. I don't mind the drone head because it's a drone. It's not supposed to look like anything. And if you want to look like something, go get the Dispensor remold they did in Japan. That's a brilliant piece. But this is one of those guilty pleasure figures for me because I think his gimmick is really fun. Like, yes, it means he's got this big stick hanging out his back, but you push that stick in and the claw extends and the claw grabs at the same time. Like, it's super neat. I will admit that does make him very hard to put in a shelf and does make him very awkward as a toy, but I actually think people give this one a little bit harder of a time than it deserves. I'm not like going to put it premium price or anything, but I think at the very least high up in the retail release is a little bit more fair. I like the toy, okay? There's some gimmick figures even I can enjoy. All right, Deluxe Class Brawl. I like this one too, but there's a caveat to this one. I actually really like how the toy functions. I think it's an interesting engineering trick where all of his arms get folded up into the turret. Every tank transformer ever has a hard time figuring out how to deal with the turret. So I think this one actually had a clever solution for using it. I like the toy. I like the toy quite a bit. But if you're going to get the toy, you get the Deep Desert version. You get the tan one. You do not get the original movie accurate. The original movie accurate, all of the auto-transforming gears in the inside of the chest, translucent plastic. And this is where you think I'm harping on translucent plastic for no reason again. No. Even without aging, this stuff was incredibly fragile back in the day. If you tried to transform it manually without respecting the automorph, cracked, broke. Doesn't work. Toy doesn't work anymore. If you try to, even if the gears just get stuck for some reason in transformation, breaks. Can't use it anymore. This is where I kind of prove that this stuff is real because in the repaint, Hasbro made sure that the inner gears were opaque plastic. And guess what? Not nearly as prone to breakage. Works a lot better as a figure. So get the repaint if you can, because there is a definite weakness to this. However, form-wise, I'm still inclined to put it up to the premium. Still really like it in design and function. There's just, you just don't go with the original one, that's all. Incinerator. We're getting, okay, so there's a ton of toys in this 07 movie line that still feels like it has some elements of Cybertron-esque design to it. And Incinerator is in there because it plays around with conventions, like having like these gigantic blade hands instead of normal arms. And keeping a more simplistic approach to engineering, which I still prefer. I prefer efficiency and... oh man, the word's going to escape me, and I'm going to think of it later. But still, I prefer to be efficient as a transformer rather than overcomplicated. He was pretty nice. He was okay. I'm not going to put him terribly high because he's still like a pretty weird and awkward figure. But I think putting him below the other helicopter on this list, I think that's okay for now. We might revisit that placing once we figure out who goes where. All right, Landmine, another original deluxe based on one of the vehicles from the movie, and again, he keeps it a little bit more simple than some of the movie toys do. Not a bad thing for me. It's just, this one didn't impress me as much. I didn't have as much fun with this figure as I had with others. I mean, he mostly feels like a placeholder figure, just because we need one more on the list, which is a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit disappointing, but you know what? I don't mind it too much. I just think he's just like average level. Here's where the blasphemy is going to come in. I'm going to put Landmine below Payload, because like Payload, I actually have quite a bit of fun with, at least enough to make me go, all right, yeah, that's the one. That's the one. I got, I like the goofiness. I like the unique transformation. Landmine doesn't hit enough uniqueness for me, so I'll put him just below for now. Okay, next up, Stockade, which is another one of those figures where I definitely feel Cybertron vibes out of him, that older style of design elements that I really like. He's simplistic again, but I think he's one of those figures that uses his bulk and his mass really, really well to come up with this rather unique figure amongst 07 characters. 07 characters tend to be kind of svelte, kind of scrawny in a lot of their proportions. It's one reason why I like Bone Crusher so much, because he kind of defies that a little bit. But Stockade is stocky. He's got these big arms. He's got these little extendo hand things as a gimmick. Not complicated, but, it makes him a little bit more fun. But in form, I really like this toy, and I really like the figure. If I'm going to put him anywhere, I'm going to put him like low side of premium price right now. We'll put him there. No one in the flea market yet, but we'll get there. Oh, we will get there. All right. Next up, we're dealing with our Bumblebees. You remember the days when, we could have a Transformer movie line and only has 2 Bumblebee toys? Well, technically 3 in this list. So, classic Camaro first. And I actually kind of like the classic Camaro design a little bit better. I like the hood down rather than forward. I think that's a little bit closer to like the vibe I like for Bumblebee. He doesn't feel like he's as kibble loaded as the Camaro is going to, because they don't really feel an emphasis on like trying to get accuracy with its design. They really wanted to nail it with the Camaro Bumblebee. I should differentiate these. The modern Bumblebee, they wanted to be a lot more accurate to the robot mode in the movie, which made him a lot more complicated. I do really like the more simplistic approach to the Bumblebee in the classic Camaro. The problem with him is that his automorph is very easy to miss, and it is very commonly broken, which does kind of break the whole figure's ability to stay in robot mode, to the point where the second release had to have a little tag, a sticker on it that said, "Press here to transform." So that's a pretty critical flaw. It's going to keep me from putting it too high up, despite the fact that I do like the toy. I'm going to put him like right about there. I feel like that's okay. So that said, how do I feel about our modern Camaro Bumblebee, our concept Camaro Bumblebee? For the first attempt at a design, it's okay. Like I said, it's where the toy lines are getting pretty complicated, trying to get all these different these crazy like ILM designs to work in physical. I'm not a fan of the way they handled the weapon. Like, it's neat that it comes apart with a blade, but it's such a big, unwieldy weapon, and if your ball joints weren't very good, your arm sagged a lot. That didn't work out as well. But the toy itself is okay. Like I said, I like it a little bit less than the classic Camaro, so I think it's fair to just kind of put it just below that point. I think it's fair enough. Ironhide. I can remember really liking Ironhide. So again, like, this is one of those where, like, keep in mind, the 07 movie toy line had to be rushed. Turnaround time for a Transformer is typically like around 2 years between the initial drawings and concepts and actually producing the figure. The 07 movie toys had significantly less time to actually go from design on a page to a toy on the shelves, which is why a lot of them don't really hit accuracy very well or have kibble problems. Ironhide survived that probably better than a lot of them did. His big arm cannons made it in. The angle to his car hood armor thing, that all worked. He articulates well. He's proportioned well. He has like, I remember liking his mech tech. His auto transform, his automorph. I can remember liking his automorph because it's all in the legs, but it's a really neat trick to see all the panels move around. And it didn't get really in the way of anything else since it was dedicated to the leg section of the toy. But the only problem with him is the fact that the roof section could break off if you weren't careful with the toy. But I think he is actually one of the nicer ones in the original movie line. Yeah, I kind of want to put him like way up. I kind of want to put him way up there. I think he works well. Okay, leader class Megatron. Oh boy. So the Megatrons are where we're going to get a little bit bad. I'm not a fan of any of the movie 1 Megatrons. I think this is the design they had to struggle with the most as far as like the rush aspect of the toy line. He doesn't really like, they don't really know what to do with his parts. He's got extraneous parts that never appear in his movie vehicle mode. He's got a lot of back kibble. He's carrying a lot of kibble on his back and his arms to accommodate, just trying to make his vehicle mode look like something. And I don't know. It was never a fun toy. Also, because he spent so much of the movie frozen in ice, they felt the need to spray him blue. And I hated that. I hated that because I didn't like it because like this is the time where Hasbro's so scared of producing gray characters that they would take any excuse to paint color onto them. So yeah, we'll paint him blue because he was frozen for a little bit of the movie. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the toy. I'm not a fan of the leader class. Yeah, just no well. Though I mean, my personal preference, and it's probably a bad take, I think the Legends class Megatron in that movie line is probably the best representation of him from the movie. It didn't have any blue, didn't have any excess kibble. Vehicle mode only had one nose cone. It's better. All right, Optimus Prime. Looking back at this toy, I remember I really, really liked it. To the point where I kind of wish I had kept on to it because, yeah, like the mech tech stuff makes it a little bit weird in the torso function, because it's all spring loaded and resistant motor activated, and he does have a bunch of junk hanging off of him because they didn't quite know how to make the robot work. But he keeps some of the solid block design I like in Transformers, and he just looks beefier and stronger than he does in later toys. So I don't mind him. I actually kind of miss this toy. I will admit it's a toy with flaws, but I kind of miss having this figure. I want to put him up. I want to put him up in premium. Maybe not too high. Maybe not too high. It's weird to say that their real gear is better than Optimus Prime, but I think for what they're supposed to do and be compared to the price point, like I feel like that's fair. Like maybe that's just me. All right, Protoform Optimus Prime. I mean, it's kind of a neat thing to have Protoform characters as your like preview figures. I think that's kind of clever marketing. The toy itself actually looks nice. It's a unique figure to be certain, and the idea of like making an alt mode out of like that entry figure, that entry form they had flying into the atmosphere. Okay, it's a stretch, but it's not too big of a stretch. It's a nice figure. Also, one of the first Transformers ever with a blast effect, which can be used in both modes, which I think is actually clever. Yeah, let's put him higher up retail release. I actually really like that figure. I do know he has decos that even the original designer prefers over the original, but well, that's not for this video's discussion. Ratchet. Okay, so if any of the figures felt like there's holdovers from Cybertron, this and classics, that's definitely Ratchet. He's a lot bigger, beefier, bulkier than he is in the movie, trying to accommodate that big, beefy, bulky vehicle mode without having too many panels. And he really does not have many panels at all, about as many as a Cybertron toy did. He's a big, hefty, heavily built figure, and just feels really solid and fun for that. Articulation level's good. He's got a couple of like hidden weapons from his vehicle. Nothing too outrageous on the figure. It doesn't go over the top, but I think it hits a nice little play pattern. And this is kind of going to expose me and my preferences. Remember, I'm trying to be objective, but I'm also like biased toward the stuff that caters to like my design aesthetics. Holy Grail. Low-end Holy Grail. But I do think it is a really, really nice figure. Okay, Scorponok is a toy that exists just to give Scorponok a toy. We're not even going to discuss the robot mode when it comes to Scorponok because it doesn't exist. It's not meant to exist. They did it simply so he had a transformation. It is a non-transformer, barely transforms. It's literally just there to be a big scorpion toy. So we're putting him low end of retail because as Scorponok, he does what he does. But he's not that great of a figure. He just kind of checks the box. Starscream. I've never been a fan of movie Starscream's design. I mean, for a character that's supposed to be sleek and cunning in the sky, he spends a lot of time groveling to Megatron and looking like a giant Dorito man. Now, and I didn't like the Voyager either. Yeah, like, design preference aside, the jet mode is just kind of hampered by these gigantic missile launchers that make it look like terribly bulky and nothing like it could actually fly at any point. I know movie Starscream is supposed to be bulky, but this is bulky in kind of the wrong way. Like, there is still some kind of slenderness to him, at least like in depth wise, that this Starscream doesn't hit. It's just too big and bulky. Whereas like before, remember, my preference is the bulky, as you can see by the Holy Grail tier, but not when it's hampering like the rest of the figure. Also, the fact that his arms were just gigantic missile launchers and you couldn't really do anything with them besides aim missiles, I think that hurt the figure too. Where do I put you? I think I want to put you top of bargain bin because you're okay, but man, you like, that's one of those toys that really suffered from all the shortcutting. I feel like they just needed way more time. I mean, it didn't take them very long. Like Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon had far better Starscream toys. They're more fun to mess with. All right, Ultimate Bumblebee. Can you believe this is actually the first Masterpiece movie toy in Japan because they didn't have any other toy line to release it in? As a representation of Bumblebee, it's not good. It's really not good. It's very inaccurate to how he's depicted in the movie. As a toy, he's just packed with a ton of electronic gimmicks. As an action figure, he's kind of stunted. He's really just good if you just want a giant Camaro that happens to turn into a robot. I think this one did not age well at all. I think that one, as an Ultimate Bumblebee, I think it aged very, very poorly. I can remember people losing interest in that about as fast as it was released. Dreadwind, or Dreadwing, which one is it? Do I really care? No, but I'm going to be accurate for the sake of accuracy. Dreadwing. Okay, so I like the drone molds a little bit better than most. I don't like this drone mold. I don't like it. The undercarriage is really big and bulky, and I'm not a fan of how it looks. The missiles being blast effects work. The proportions in robot mode do not work for me. These tiny little scrawny arms and this giant body. You know, he just looks ridiculous to me. I've never ever been a fan of this toy. All I can say is like the paint job looks nice. Like the paint job is nice, but function wise, toy wise, I've never liked this figure. I think this is the first one I'm going to drop in the flea market just because I've never been a fan. And then you have the Overcast repaint, which I think works less. Like at least the military deco kind of works for him. No, not a fan of that one. Okay, Longview, a pair of binoculars. This one's also not bad. This one is also not a bad little figure. The proportions on him are great. He's just a little simplistic in the design is all. But he's a very fine. He's inoffensive. He's just like a nice little transformer to goof with on a desk. I think I'm going to put him above the other Real Gears on the retail release. I think that's okay. God, making me wish I really knew these things better. All right. Meantime, and the sad thing is I looked it up just before this video, and I still cannot remember them. Meantime is a transforming watch, which is an interesting little prospect. It's kind of like a modern chronoformer. In a way that actually the strap actually transforms too. Now, you would have to be a little kid in order for this strap to come close to fitting you. But if you could wear it, it was actually super cool to just wear a transformer around that you can mess with at any time. Design-wise, he's okay. Design-wise, he's okay. It's at least interesting that they turned him into like something that works on a strap. So he's somewhere in the middle of the real gears for me. I think that's all the real gears now. So, like, yeah, we have a couple standouts, but most is kind of feel the same amongst the retail figures. And then there's retail figures that I like a lot less than the real gears. Dropkick. So, Dropkick is a toy where it felt like they tried to work movie style and aesthetic into a toy that really didn't have the space for it. He's got a lot of kibble issues, big, heavy bounce of kibble on his shoulders, and super scrawny digitigrade legs. And I've never been happy with how he looked. Vehicle mode looks fine. There's elements of the robot mode that feel fine too. He just has so much junk, and it just felt like space filler again. It just felt like they weren't really trying with the design. Like they were trying for something that didn't really work with a design, rather. Like you could tell in Dropkick, they really weren't certain how to work the movie aesthetic yet, or how to like really handle the engineering to it. He's not horribly bad, but I think he is at least bargain bin bad. I'm just not a fan of the look and how he's designed. RC, man, don't we wish this is the RC design that carried forward? Instead, no, we got trio of triplets that never made sense and looked like giant snake ladies. But this one was a more standard design. The only girl that I can remember offhand in the 07 movie line. And it's the first instance of a deluxe RC motorcycle. The first one being, our first cycle ever being Energon. It's not a bad figure, and there's a little bit of Energon left in her. You can see that in her weapon, which has a similar aesthetic to it than the giant Energon bow. She does a well enough job. Just proportion wise, shape wise, I really like the motorcycle mode. It's a good size for your for action figures to ride. The face design is a little bit weird. The face design is a little bit odd. You can see that is like a design of like, we really want to, like, we're not sure if we're supposed to be designing them after G1 or making up our own thing. So they kind of like, I don't know, they did something weird. But beyond that, no, she's not bad. She's not bad. I really like that toy. All right, Barricade. This is another divisive one for me. So the toy itself looks really cool, and amongst the Decepticons especially, I think it's one of the more accurate designed figures from the movie. He does have a super nice gimmick in that he kind of inherited Soundwave's trick of like frenzy is in his chest. And I really like that they worked that in, and he still has all of his transformation gimmicks and all that. I think where he kind of falls apart is that frenzy hiding in his chest was not enough gimmick for Hasbro. They also wanted him to have like extendo arms, which are on hair triggers and do not work very well. So that holds him back a little bit, but I still think the toy is super cool. I still think he works really, really well. Where do we go with him? I feel like Barricade fans are going to hate me if I put him anywhere besides at least premium. Because of the aforementioned flaws, I don't want to put him higher than Brawl, but I do want to put him up in premium. I think he's at least that good. All right. We're running out of space here on my screen, but we'll be okay. I'll adjust it later here. All right, so Long Arm, and again, a toy that I like, I think, better than most people do. Like, the big flaw to him is that his weapon is permanently screwed into his arm, which does hamper a lot of what you can do function-wise with him, but I actually like the look of him. I like using that, like, diamond plate steel for the chest. I think it looks super cool. I like the tow truck mode. It's nice and heavy, like you'd expect a tow truck to be. I think overall it's a really nice design. Aside from just like that aforementioned, like I really wish he could take his wrecker arm off and store it or switch arms, or at least so I can see him like without it. Again, I want to put him up pretty high. Not premium, because he does have a pretty significant flaw to him, but I do really like the toy and the look and all that. Oh man, my screen's getting too full here. I don't know how this looks on yours. It doesn't look good. That's how it looks. Oh, well, we'll make sure you can see it on the aftermath. All right, Swindle. Swindle, I think, is an easy bargain bin toy. A lot of people do not like this toy. I tend to agree. I mean, it's an okay figure. I don't mind like the gut weapon gimmick, but out of the drones, he's the least interesting to me. He just has like an average feel to him. Like he's not Dreadwing bad, but he's just like meh. He's a drone. What do you expect? Protoform Starscream. Oh boy. 100% clear plastic? Yeah, or 100% gold plastic. I'm sorry. We're in the gold plastic era. I hated this toy. As an entry mode, as a protoform mode, it didn't look nearly as cool as Prime's. Yeah, they tried to put some G1 Starscream back into the design a little bit to kind of save it and kind of pull it back from the movie design. Maybe the wrong decision. Maybe they should have just embraced it all the way through. It's just not a good looking figure, and it just doesn't look nearly as nice as Prime did doing the same thing. So yeah, and then the fact that it broke so easily. And then we get the Voyager Megatron, which I think kind of ends up in the same regard for me. I don't like the ice blue. He's not the blue. The ice isn't even blue in the movie. I know what you're doing, but it's still dumb. I don't like how he has entire sections of him completely made of the ice. That doesn't really work for me either. Like his wings are like half ice pieces. And his transformation is bare bones and not great. It's just not a fun toy. He's one of those toys that has that stupid like spring-loaded feet that close together automatically. Literally everyone hates that. Literally everyone hates that. Down you go. Down you go. The Voyager Optimus Prime I thought was not a bad figure. Not nearly as interesting as the leader class, but it was at the very least clean. It was a much cleaner, smoother Transformers experience than the leader class was, even though it had a lot more bulk and shell to it. But I don't want to put it too high. Because it is a pretty simplistic figure. They repainted it a ton of times. Where do you go? I think right about there. Upper retail release feels right for you. Oh, we have one more Real Gear. Oh, how could I forget the not Game Boy Advance? What is your name? Power Up. These all have like serial number type things added to them. I don't care. His name's Power Up. This is again a pretty basic one. Head tucks down, arms fold up, legs fold up into that. Design-wise, he is a pretty weird design for like a handheld game because all the buttons are located toward the bottom of the device, where you would really want them at the top where your thumb is actually going to rest. So pretty weirdly designed, pretty simplistic compared to the others. I think I like him a little bit better than, say, Speed Dial, because he's at least using all of his bulk better. But yeah, design-wise, no. I think they could have done a lot better with him. And then we get to our final toy on the list, and that is Wreckage. And this is another standout from this line. This is, again, one of those toys where you can see the classics Cybertron influence the designers were still attached to. He's pretty clean as a figure, not a bit of a backpack, but nothing terrible. The overall look to him is really, really cool. I like the snow, like the Arctic camo look. Really, really like that. I like his blade gimmicks too. Like, he's just a super cool figure and super unique amongst the 07 movies. How much do I like him, though? How much do I like him? Do I like him enough to go all the way to the top? You know what? If I put Ratchet all the way at the top, I think I need to put Wreckage all the way at the top. I think that's the only fair decision for me to make. Alright, so that's going to be my tier list. Whew, boy, that was a long one. I apologize for how long these can go sometimes, but that's a lot of toys to cover and talk about and explain why they're going, where they're going. Alright, so we look at the list. Not too many in the Holy Grail. A lot of them that are kind of mid. Keep in mind, I do feel like the line suffers as a whole because it had to be rushed into production. So there's a lot that it's making up for. So the fact that more of them aren't in the bargain bin, I think, is a victory for the toy line. Looking it over, I'm trying to think, like, the weird ones are the real gear. Maybe I should have left them out. But I do think it's fair to include them. And I do think for the price point, some of them are impressive enough to warrant where I put them. Because, I'll be fair, like, I like Long Arm better as a toy than I do Booster. But for the price point, I think Booster is a very clever figure. So I'll put him at premium, and I'll be happy and accept that. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. So please, in the comments below, please let me know how Bumblebees should not be in the mid-tier. Please tell me why Protoform Starscream does not deserve to be at the very bottom of the list. Do whatever you want, because your opinion is completely different than mine, and all of our opinions are valid. It's just personal preference, so please don't take it too seriously. It's just where I would end up putting them. So thank you guys very much for watching, and thank you again to my patrons for sponsoring videos like this and making more possible in the future. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, now I need to figure out what to tier list next. I'll figure out something. Until then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.